There's a comment here I want to go to from Don, who says, facts, Dan. He kept saying it over and over again. It seeped into the dressing room. Poor mentality. Should have said game by game. You're right. And look, I think a number of things could be true here. It is a young squad. It's a young manager. This is where I think Chelsea fans, though, have to almost not back. They need to buck a trend, a habit of a generation. And that's, you've got a very young squad. You've got a very young manager. You invested more money into that. Maybe just ride through some of these bumps. Criticize, yes. Be frustrated at certain things, but ride through it. I think it's harder sometimes because you might come out and the end result not be what you want. But I think it really tests fans in the modern day era to just go, do you know what? I can criticize what's wrong, but I got faith in this and I'm going to stand by it. Because no one expected you to even be near a title race this year. And you were right up there by the top and you've had a little blip right now. You're still in and around where a lot of Chelsea fans thought you would be. In fact, you're still above in the league where most rivals predicted you to be. And it's so important sometimes to remember that. It's going to take a couple of more years until you're a fully fledged, consistent team that's challenging for titles and maybe seen as the favourites to win it. It's still going to take a couple more seasons. I think next year you'll be better. Maybe it's going to be until the year after that where maybe some people say, actually, you're the favourites now with more signings. So I don't think what you and Don have said is wrong by any stretch of the imagination, but there does need to, I think what you guys maybe need to drop is the 3 strike rule, Don, in terms of maybe this is strike 1 because he said this. I think 3 strikes might happen for a new manager.
Yeah.
Especially in an experienced one.
But here's the thing. Leadership is like, we always talk about players learning how to be leaders and learning how to, like, this is Maresca's first season in the Prem with a team like Chelsea. He's going to learn. This is going to be something he's going to learn from. And I don't even think it's a strike. I think it's just
Cam, I think that's what's dangerous, isn't it? Is that you can, if you do that and you are at a top club like Chelsea, it's not realistically the place that you go to learn. I think that's where some fans are struggling with his appointment. I genuinely believe that eventually this will all start to, like, they'll learn from their mistakes as a group and they will benefit from it. I think, as Terry's saying, it might be 2-3 seasons down the line. I think we have to be a little bit more patient with Maresca than we were with Poch, because Pochettino came in with a far bigger reputation and ultimately failed. But I think Maresca, ultimately, we're all well aware that this is a guy that is learning on the job as well. This is his, third full-time permanent managerial role. And he's got to learn from his mistakes. We want to see that he can get his team out of a rut that he failed to do for such a long period of time at Leicester last year. We want to see that this is turned around within a month, not like 18 games that it was at Leicester. And then you can probably judge that he's making progress as a manager. I think the fact of the matter is, like what Terry said, is that Chelsea is in such a strange position because the blueprint before has just been absolutely ripped up, but the fans still have the same standards. And we're sort of in this transition to try and buy into what Blueco and Clear Lake are doing.
The standards conversation is, I feel like it's been debunked, but certain people just don't want to listen to that. You can maintain the standards that you had when you had that peak team playing with Terry, Lampard, Drogba. You can have the standards to get back to that. But until you have a team that's as good as it, I think game by game, you can't judge a team based on that standards. Otherwise, I think you'll drive yourself insane. You won't enjoy anything. And I will say this to football fans. When we fell in love with the game, it wasn't particularly because of standards, was it? It wasn't. Do you know what? I'm picking Chelsea. No one picked Chelsea because Chelsea had high standards. No kid picked Real Madrid. He went, do you know what? I've looked at a lot of clubs across Spain and Europe. And when you listen to the board, you listen to the managers, no one has their high standards. No one fell in love with football for those reasons. So I sometimes feel you can have them, but there comes a point where I just think you got to maybe enjoy yourselves a little bit as well. There's got to be some kind of enjoyment that comes out of the game. It can't just be, until my standards are met. And by the way, this is why I find the standard conversation weird. Some people have standards for their club that their club has never had. The club has never been at the level they desire, but yet they're trying to convince us they started supporting them 25, 35, 45, 55, 65 years ago. And I'm like, when did you decide? Like, I'd love to pinpoint when in your life you decided, actually, this ain't really the club for me, because your club's never been. It's like if a Spurs fan's like, nah, we need to get to Madrid's level. We need to get to Man United's like peak level. We need to get to where City are. Why did you fall in love with Spurs in the first place? That's not a dig. I'm not digging your club out. I want to know the actual reason you fell in love with Tottenham.
Secretly.
There must be. Do you understand where I'm coming from?
100%.
So and what I do fear for Maresca, and I wanted to throw this out as a question, really. If the second half of the season is more of what we've seen recently, win, lose, draw, win, lose, like lots of losses and draws and not as many wins, do you think the fans will turn on him and create an untenable position for Maresca?
Yes. If he's sort of viewed that he's out of his depth, if the evidence is there that the football that he had us playing earlier on in the season is no more, because I think actually Chelsea fans were just at a period where they were like, okay, we got Chelsea back, we're playing good football, we're trying to play it in the way that we've wanted to see for years, and we've got like this young, exciting squad. If that's removed, which I think it has been in the last couple of weeks, then yes, I would say that most of the fans would start to turn probably against Maresca, questioning where his level's at. But I think actually the sporting directors would be hugely under pressure at Chelsea, because I think it would be another mistaken appointment.
I think the fans would flip on Maresca, because if the chat's anything to go by, because if you make a criticism of what's going on at Chelsea now, the immediate response is, what about Arsenal? What about your team? Like, listen to what I'm like, understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying Maresca's bad. I'm not saying Chelsea are finished. I just don't believe this current squad with this manager is going to get into the top 4. And I gave my reasons. I think they're probably the growth they have this week this season will help them do that the following season. But I just think this season is 1 year too early. That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah, we said that in the summer, Kunle, didn't we? We spoke about it, that if you do sack a manager, you have to try and improve. And I think we both said that actually Chelsea should be looking at getting 5th. The issue I have is that we then went and spent a bit more money on players like Pedro Neto, who were considered to level up the starting 11. And I think if you go and buy a Pedro Neto, if you spend 30 million on Dewsbury Hall, who's meant to be improving the squad, that's 100 million right there pretty much. Then we bought in Vega and we bought in a couple of others. We've then improved the squad and the managers, starting from a better level than where Poch left it. I then think, and you've seen the way we've played, the evidence is there to suggest that anything that isn't top 4 might actually be failure for this Chelsea side, because they've been good enough to, at one point in the season, to mathematically be in a title race.
But Dan, you say that on one hand. Sorry, you say that on one hand, but on the other hand, you're talking about how much you guys need to do in the January window, and that's not for you to challenge for the title, I would assume, as well.
No, so, it would be.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Chelsea have spent so much money, and Maresca's shown the level that this team can be at when the manager himself is setting the team up in the best possible way, and the players are at their highest level of form. I honestly think that this team should be looking at challenging towards Premier League titles with additions in this summer. We've spent a lot of money.
This season, yeah.
Why not? Why not? Because when this team was flying, Kunle, this team was good enough to be questioning whether or not they could go the distance to stay close to Liverpool. The last month has come as a shock, and I think some of the players' form has dropped off, and we'll see if that's purple patches or not, and also the manager. But I genuinely think we've seen this season, this Chelsea team get to a level that we hadn't seen under Pochettino at all.
You don't think even in the games you won, there was enough like chances that you were like getting from the other opposition?
I think there were mistakes.
Worry you a bit?
No, there was, and I came out publicly on here a few weeks ago and said, and this is when we were in good form, I said that actually defensively, I worry that Chelsea do have issues, and if anything happens around the corner that we fail to outscore those issues, then I'd be concerned about where we stand defensively. We've literally hit that bump throughout the whole of the festive period, and what are we, 1 in 4? So it's concerning, but I do think if we go and spend another 7